Kamloops and Prince Rupert. Those are the two places that if a guy says he's from Prince Rupert, just whatever he says, do the opposite. Geez, sunny day, eh? Prince Rupert is the place that, I've used this line relative to other places, but the Prince Rupert is the place where it was made up for. Is that Prince Rupert has 2 seasons, July and winter. That's Prince Rupert. It doesn't snow in Prince Rupert. Prince Rupert is way, way up north near Alaska. It doesn't snow. It just rains all the time. Pacific Current just rains and rains and rains and rains. Very little snow in Prince Rupert. As opposed to Prince George. Now that's different. How not to be a mishakela. A person reaches a state of avanira, but they have to make sure that it lasts. Oidachas. One more thing. Tzarich loshis eitzes atzmi in benafshe. He has to take advice for himself. Now the Rebbe is going to talk about a really very serious person here, who maybe we've never met. We've heard about them. He does his avodah as it should be. Both regarding intellectual comprehension, also regarding his emotional attributes. That they're revealed in his heart, meaning he has come to a state of real love and real fear. They're not vain fancies, and it's real. It's not a demyon. A demyon is something imaginary. And not only does he have ava v'yira amitim, this is felt very powerfully when he performs mitzvahs. In addition to the performance of mitzvahs in actuality, he also knows the kavanas of mitzvahs. He also knows all of the levels of godliness drawn down by each mitzvah. And through learning Torah, that's Tiferes. Tiferes. He understands all of this and has these intentions. You never met this person? Until his Aveda is in a way that's hinted at in the careful reading of the words of the Pasuk, you should serve Havaya Lokechem, Sheshem Havaya, that Shem Havaya, and what's that? Haya Hoiva V'yeh Ke'echad, one of the understandings of Shem Havaya. We talked about this the first time we saw Shem Havaya in the Maimon. One of the understandings of Shem Havaya is that which is beyond time, right? Haya Hoiva V'yeh, past, present, future. That's one. Ulamayla Yeser, and also Shem Havaya is a level Yeser Bechinas Havaya Shalamayla Mishtashlis, the level of Shem Havaya that's beyond Ishtashlis. So there's 2 different levels of Shem Havaya. There's what's called Havaya de Tata, Havaya de Leilo. Havaya de Latata is the level that is the source of the Or of Seder Ishtashlis. Yod is Chochma, K is Bina, Vav is Zohar, K is Malchus, the 10 spheres. Right? And that the source of that light is from Yud K Vav K, the source of Kelim is from Shem Elokim. Right? But there's also a level of Shem Havaya that's L'mayla min Ishtashlis, completely transcendent level of godly reality. Nasa, that level, Nasa Elokechem. That has become Elokechem, Kechechem v'chayuschem. Your power, your vitality, your conscious reality. This person is on an unbelievable level. Even when he's in this place, tzarich lizar, has to be very careful. Whoa. This makes Rabbi Kaplan very nervous. I'm going to tell you a story that every time he hears the story, he says, that story makes me nervous. Right? Svias Ratzon, satisfaction, not simcha. Of course he's besimcha, you have to be besimcha. Svias Ratzon is satisfaction. What does that mean? Satiated, meaning what? It's enough. Svias Ratzon, saveya, v'yachalta v'savata, uberachta. You ate and you were satisfied. You had enough. Because if a person's in a state of satisfaction, what does the Rebbe say? She'az nishar lamed al amde. He remains standing on the place where he's standing. He's standing on his place. Ve'ena meisif lalech b'avedasan. He doesn't continue to grow and move and change in his aveda. Never understand exactly why certain things are translated into Yiddish. The whole Maimer is said in Yiddish. Stellt sich up. Right? He's standing and geht nicht weiter. And he's not going further. Svias ratzon. Satisfaction. I've done enough. In addition to the fact this feeling of satisfaction could cause that the love and fear that have already been born, and revealed, they won't continue. This is the idea of a mishakela. Why might he lose the av of a yira? He's done enough. Retires from this avodah. In a gam b'shasha eved avedasa b'avavir, even when he does the avodah b'avavir, even if he doesn't reach the level of mishakela, he's still expressing this avavir in a very real way. But tia avedasa b'medida v'agbolet, but his avodah will be limited. How will it be limited? B'mida hanidreshes, with that measure that's necessary, misviyas haratzon shalei, in order to reach this state of satisfaction. He'll serve the Eibishter enough to reach that point where he goes, I did it. So, and he won't go past that. Our Rebbe drives a hard bargain. Valzen Nemar, relative to this, it says, Leisem mishakela v'akara ba'atsecha. There shouldn't be a mishakela v'akara ba'atsecha in your land. Why does it say atsecha? Ba'atsecha daika, specifically atsecha. And this is similar to what we saw earlier. She'aretz u'miloshen u'ratzain. The word aretz comes from the same root as the word ratzain. And why Chazal ask, Lama nikra shma aretz? Why is Eretz Yisrael called aretz? She'rotza salasa is ratzain kaina, that she runs to do the ratzain, the will of her master. All three lashonis, aretz, ratz, and ratzain, all the same lashonis. Right? What's Eretz Yisrael? A place where the Ratzon of the Eibishter is revealed more than anywhere else, and that's why there's more mitzvahs here. So the Eretz Yisrael is a place where the Eretz Yisrael is running to do the Ratzon of the Eibishter and reveals the Ratzon of the Eibishter. Right? So Atzecha is a language of Ratzon. So what is it? Don't be a mishakela because of Atzecha, because of your Ratzon, because of your Svias Ratzon, because of your satisfaction. Hainu shelo yurgesh etzle afilu Svias Ratzon bilvad. Right, that she shouldn't feel, it shouldn't be felt, even satisfaction alone. Now the Rebbe adds, Pshita, obviously, obviously he shouldn't feel his own ritzonos, his own agenda, which is what we saw on the previous page. Because if he's holding by there, then he's a kli malashena machshi, then he has no receptacle at all. Bechina Rishona de Akara, and that's the first level of Akara. So certainly we're not talking about that. We're talking about a person whose agenda is the Eibishter's agenda, but he can reach a state where he says, I did it. And he feels a certain satisfaction. He says that doesn't work. And not simcha, satisfaction. Satisfaction means I've done enough. Not simcha. Simcha is a whole different thing. Simcha is as holy as it gets. The Rebbe says satisfaction is, and we're going to see. We'll see. The Rebbe is going to go weiter and explain the story of Yochanan ben Zakkai. But the story that makes Rabbi Vichten nervous, I heard this from Rabbi Groner. I heard this from Lezer Nanas. I heard this from Lezer Nanas. Lezer Nanas was a chassid of the Rebbe Shab and the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Rebbe, who was born in Taf Reish Nun Zayin. 1897, and went to Lubavitch in Taf Reish Ayin Gimel. Went to Lubavitch as a 16-year-old in Taf Reish Ayin Gimel. Shavuos Taf Reish Ayin Gimel. Went to Lubavitch to learn in Temchet Tamimim. That means the Maimarim that he heard from the Rebbe Rashab were the Hemshech Ayin Beis. That's what he heard as a bacher. And they used to have to memorize the mimer by Sunday morning. They used to have to know the mimer by heart. In Chassidus, they would be tested. And the Rebbe would say a mimer Friday night. By Sunday morning in Chassidus, they had to know the mimer Baal Peh. It was serious. So he said that he was once walking in the hallway in Temche Tamimim. The Frierdiker Rebbe, who was the Rosh Yeshiva, right? The Frierdiker Rebbe was the Manal of the Yeshiva. The Rebbe Shabbos Rebbe. The Frierdiker Rebbe was the Manal of the Yeshiva from the age of 15. So when he was 15, he got married and became the Manal of the Yeshiva. So there was a bacher that came out of class, and Rav Nana saw this. There was a bacher that came out of class, and the Frierdiker Rebbe walked up to him and said, "You have to leave the Yeshiva. You're expelled." No explanation, nothing. So he left anyway. He left. There was no arguments. He left. But he was from Vitebsk, and his father had some money, so he could afford to rent a place in Lubavitch. And he stayed in Lubavitch, right? Like, he's kicked out of 770, but he gets an apartment in Crown Heights, right? And he stays in Crown Heights. It's still Crown Heights. The Rebbe's still there, right? It's still Lubavitch. But he can't learn in the yeshiva, so there's other places to learn. There's people sitting and learning in different places, in different shuls. So he stayed in Lubavitch to be by the Rebbe Rashab. And he was learning. And one of his father's friends came to Lubavitch, and he saw him, and he asked him, "Are you going to be in Yechidus by the Rebbe Rashab, or are you going to see the Manal?" They called him the Rayatz. So he said, "I think so." He said, if you see the Rayatz, could you ask him why I was expelled? He never told me why I was expelled from Yeshiva. Okay. So he met the Rebbe Rayatz, and he asked him, and the Rebbe told him, he walked out of class with a look of satisfaction. If you're satisfied, Temche Tamimim isn't the place for you. He never got back in the yeshiva, this guy. That was it. Someone else took that bench. Whoa. I mean, he walked out, I guess, with, I got that. He kicked him out of yeshiva. Right? Now, I'm not saying that that's what we should do around here. I don't think that, right? Otherwise, we'd have no teachers and no students. But,
scary.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Now you see why Rabbi Kaplan gets nervous when he hears this story. That's what Rav Nana's told me. And that was it. Never got back in yeshiva, that young man. That's quite a bar to set. Okay. So the Rebbe says the way to maintain the Ava is to not be satisfied by it, because one of two things will happen. Either I'll be satisfied and I'll lose the Ava and the Yira because I'll lose all the impetus of my Avodah. Or even if I don't lose the Ava of the Yira, it'll be limited by virtue of whatever level is necessary in order to give me that feeling of Sfiyas Ratzon, satisfaction. I've done enough. Umamshich b'kosev. And the pasuk continues. Es mispar yemecha maleh. The number of your days I will fill. So what does that mean? Okay, now first of all, I'm just warning you. This is the graphic content where the Rebbe is going to rip your kishkas out. Okay, but don't worry. He's going to make us feel better. At the bottom of the page, the paragraph that goes over 332 over to 333, he's going to make us feel much better. So don't worry. He's going to take our kishkas out in the next page, but he'll put them back. The pasuk, the end of it all is the number of your days I will fill. So now that's going to be the advice how to reach the state of leisa mishakela v'akara. How do you reach that state? Es mispar yemecha maleh. The number of your days I will fill. What does that mean? Let's see. Shazuya eitza yu'utza. This is the advice given. Kedei lifel b'nafshe, in order to bring about in his soul hergish shel heder sfiyas ratzon, that feeling of a lack of satisfaction. Ve'inyan b'zeh. Shekasher adam, when a person misbeine, he's misbeine. Shenitna lo yomim k'tzuvim. He's given a certain amount of time in the world, numbered days. Yomim yutzru. Time. God created days. Time. Time is this bizarre thing that passes. Lo pachas v'lo yoser. Not more, not less, and not more. Ubechol yom And every day, b'chol shah, every hour, b'chol rega, every moment, tzarich lavid avedasei, he has to do his service, l'malei shlichusei b'almadein, to fulfill his shlichus in this world. Harihu tarid b'zeh kol kach. He's so involved in this, in doing that which is incumbent upon him to do. This is an amazing thing. And this is so much the Rebbe's derech in Avodah. She'ein le panai klal lach she'avedus inyanim shel madregas. He doesn't have time, panai is free time, klal at all, to think about matters of levels, meaning levels where I've reached and what I've accomplished. He doesn't have time to do that because he's so busy doing what it is that has to get done. And now the Rebbe explains this based on a famous Gemara. The Rebbe explains the Gemara in a way that no one else ever has. And he uses those magical words, which we'll see in 2 lines. 1 line. Valderech Maimer Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Famous Gemara. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is lying on what they call his deathbed. And he's talking to his students. And he says something that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. What did he say? I don't know in which way they're taking me. What does that mean? He doesn't know whether he's going to Gan Eden or Gehenna. This is Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. This is the Tzaddik Ador. This is the person, he's the Nasi Ador. This is the Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation. How can he possibly say, I don't know where they're taking me. I don't know where I'm going? How can he say such a thing? Right? Where does that put the rest of us? Right? It's like Rava calling himself a Beinoni, right? Well, what about the rest of that? So Rabbi says to him, what about us? Right? I mean, if you're a Beinoni, then what are we? Right? Okay. So how can he say such a thing? Umi habiyurim bezeh, amongst the explanations. Now, generally, when the Rebbe says that, that means you won't find this anywhere else. Right? Now look at footnote 72. You want to see other explanations? So look over here. But you're not going to find this anywhere. Because this exists right here. And it's absolutely amazing. Shemitzad Geidel Tirdosa, as a result of his great tirda, expenditure of effort, his great involvement, b'milui shlichusay, in fulfilling his shlichus, lehayalei panai, he didn't have free time, lasim leiv, to think about, suherenzich, lemadrega shaloi, to where he was holding, to his level, what he'd accomplished. He just didn't have time. He was too busy. Vahainu, shutarud v'shakua kol kach, that he's so, for zunken geworden, for the shakua means you're sunk into it. And he's so sunk in, he's so involved. Yeah, the Rebbe says it means. It is a zoy fil for yokt, involved, for ein, one, for trunken, sunk, b'milui shlichusa, in fulfilling his shlichus, b'chol yom, b'chol shah, b'chol rego, every moment. She'ena yedea manasim sichleim midaisa. He doesn't know, where is he holding by his seichel and his midas? What have I accomplished? He doesn't have time to think about it. He's too busy doing what has to be done. Valachas kama v'kama. All the more so b'negela madregas and elamas b'nefesh. All the more so those hidden aspects, hidden levels in the soul, meaning things that we're not necessarily conscious of, might have to think about and maybe sabaining about. He doesn't have time. He's too busy doing what God wants him to do, to worry about where he's holding. So now when you read this, you say, well, what about a cheshbon nefesh? Don't I have to make a cheshbon nefesh sometimes? Isn't there such a thing called a cheshbon nefesh? So this is the chiddush. The Rebbe, two things can be said about a cheshbon. First of all, simple pshat, the Rebbe is saying that if a person's so busy, then he's not going to be doing a cheshbon nefesh. Right? He's going to be too busy. Now, when you do a cheshbon nefesh, what do? So what's a chassidish cheshbon nefesh? What have I accomplished? Where am I? No. That's not a chassidish cheshbon nefesh. What's the cheshbon nefesh? How can I do what I'm doing better? You're running a company. Okay, so the only reason you're looking at last year's numbers is for what reason?
Figure out how you can do better this year.
Exactly. You're not sitting there, in February we didn't, our ad campaign was no good. You're not doing that. What are you doing? That ad campaign in February, we can change that and make it better. That's why you're doing it. Why? Because you're serious about running your company. Why? Because your company is supposed to make money, and that's what you're completely focused on. That's the only thing that matters. I'm a better businessman. I'm a worse businessman. That's what the guy running the company is thinking about. If he is, what's happening to the company? Exactly. If all he's thinking about is whether the company is doing what the company can do in order to accomplish what the company is supposed to accomplish, then the company is going to accomplish a tremendous amount. But if he's worrying about, am I a good enough businessman? Did I walk into the boardroom the right way, or should I have walked in with a little more swagger, a little less swagger, a little more, right? It's not got to do with anything. Right?
Self.
Right? You're running a business. You're running you have a store. Your store sells, I don't know, clothes. You have a clothing store. You walk into the clothing store one day. There's a line around the block waiting to get into your clothing store. What's going on? Okay. So you open up the door. You tell the people, just 1 second, let me just get into the store. You can all come in a minute. Just give me 30 seconds. Fine. So you open the door, run to the cash register, say, okay. People start coming into the store. They're buying everything you've got. And you see that, mamish, the pants are all gone. You call up your supplier, send more pants. There's no more pants left. Send me pants. You call, the shirts are gone. The sweaters are gone. The ties are still there, right? So the busy. So until finally he runs out of clothes. Okay, so now it's 4:30. What does he do? Close the store and make a cheshbon? No, there's still people walking around the block waiting to get into the store. Okay, but he has he's almost out of clothes. So he calls up his neighbor who sells appliances. So what do you got in your store? He said, no, whatever you got, just do me a favor. Bring it over and put it on my shelves. Fine. So the guy's bringing toasters and he's bringing anything he's got that he can carry. He's throwing on the shelves, and they're buying it all up. They just keep buying and buying and buying and buying and buying. It's like it doesn't stop. So is this guy going to stop? Say, whoa, hold on, everybody out. I have to make a cheshbon. Or is he going to just keep selling? He's going to keep selling. As long as there's people buying, just keep selling. I mean, what did you open the store for? You opened the store to sell. So just keep selling until there's nothing left. They bought the carpet, they bought the shelves, they bought the cash register. Now you're done. They bought your cash register, now you're finished because you have nothing else to sell. The store is empty. Okay, now theoretically you could say, okay, the day's over. But until that, why am I stopping to make a cheshbon nefesh as to what I sold? How many pairs of pants I sold? What difference does it make how many pairs of pants I sold? There's still people who want pants, so sell more pants. Right? And that's the Rebbe's derech in Avodah. Do what has to be done when it has to be done. Right? What's the best mitzvah to do? The one that's in front of you right now. That's the most important mitzvah in your life. Right? What can you do right now? So do it. And look for it. It's there. The Eibishter wants something from us. Right? Now, obviously, this has to be understood within the context of not blowing a fuse and not driving yourself crazy. It's okay, 100%, but that's also part of it. Right? Why do you go to sleep at night? You go to sleep at night because you need energy the next day to serve the Eibishter. So of course you go to sleep at night. Then you stay up all night because but I could do another mitzvah. Okay, but if I do another mitzvah now, then I'm going to be finished tomorrow. Okay, so fine. There is going to be a time when you're going to shut it down and go to sleep. Okay, fine, that's reasonable. And there might even be a time in the middle of the day that you have to do that. And there might even be a certain period of time. This certainly that now I'm stretching it based on this mimer, but okay. Well, we can translate the mimer for people like us, right? That there might even be time during the day where I need to be awake while I'm asleep, or asleep while I'm awake. I just need a little downtime. Okay, fine. Why? Because I'll accomplish everything better later in the afternoon if I just take a little time now, whether it's to go for a run or it's to just sit on a bench and watch the people walk by the street for 10 minutes just to let your brain rest so you can get back. Okay, fine. If you're doing that for the right reasons, so then amazing. If I'm learning all day so I get to sit down in the afternoon and vegetate, so then that's the wrong idea. If I'm sitting there and just sort of, letting my brain relax a little bit because I can't concentrate anymore. I need a little rest. Okay, fine. Sometimes we like to rest when we're awake. We don't always like to be asleep when we're resting. Sometimes we like to be awake when we're resting. Okay, say right? Would it be nice to not need that? Yes, it would be very nice to not need that. Do I need that? I have to be honest with myself. Yes, I might need that. Okay, but if I do that in a certain way, with a certain understanding of who I am, what I'm really all about, working towards a certain place. Okay, good. Right? And but what don't I have to spend my time doing? Where am I? And where am I holding? And where am I? That's just a waste of time. Do what has to be done. The Rebbe has us so busy doing things that we don't have time to think about everything else. Right? And that's how we'll be in a state of simcha. Right? If I spend my whole day wondering who I am, what I am, where am I holding, so I'm not doing anything. It's unbelievable. Pashut unbelievable. What the Rebbe just said. Complete chiddush in Avodah. And where's the cheshbon nefesh? So first of all, the cheshbon nefesh, as we said, is about the future. And even if there's a cheshbon nefesh about the past, which there is, so when do we do that? Interestingly enough, that's always at the end. It's the end of the day, end of the week, end of the year, El. Right? So there might be a time at the end of the year, okay, you make a certain cheshbon nefesh at the end of the year. Okay, but most of the year, that's not what you're doing. You're too busy doing things. At the end of the day, if you have a few minutes at the end of the day before you sing Kriya Shema Shalamita to think about what you could do better tomorrow, so good. Right? And Elul, there is an aspect of Elul where we're relating to the past, right? That we say that the 12 days from Chayel until Rosh Hashanah, each of them is elevating one of the months of the previous year, right? Tishrei and then Cheshvan, etc. each day. Chayel was Tishrei, Yutes Elul is Cheshvan, Chafel is Kislev, etc. Okay, fine, that's true. But that's at the very end. And in all fairness, even that, you're a shaliach in some town, and you have 150 people coming for Rosh Hashanah, and you're doing it in some hotel because your Chabad house isn't big enough for the 250 people that are coming for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So you do it in a hotel ballroom, okay? And you have to feed them. So you're feeding them also in the hotel ballroom. So you have to kasher the kitchen, and you have to get the tables, and you have to make sure that the chazan shows up, and you have to make sure, let's say you're going to blow shofar b'seder, but you need a couple of chazonim, and you have to get some bachrim to help, etc., etc. So those 10 days before Rosh Hashanah, I'm sure that you just shut down your shlichus, and you go lock yourself in your office, and you make a cheshbon nefesh about the whole last year, right? That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. You don't have a minute. What are you doing? You're taking care of Rosh Hashanah for 250 people. That's your shlichus. That's what you're doing. You don't have time to think about where you're holding. Right? Maybe after Sukkot, when it's all over, you can take your wife away for 3 days, and the two of you can just go, okay, are we still alive? Yeah, okay, fine. And then you get back, and what do you have to start? You have to start planning Hanukkah. Right? That shaliach has time? Maybe. Okay, of course not. I mean, what a riot! You don't think that guy's doing a cheshbon nefesh while he's busy worrying about chairs and tables and caterers and who knows what else he's worrying about. Why? Because that's a shlichus. That's what God wants from him. God wants him to make sure that the spiritual and material experience of those 250 people or 150 people or 80 people or 20 people, whatever it is coming to his Chabad house, they'll have everything they need. And if they have everything they need, then he has everything he needs. Is the davening going to be as uplifting for him as it is when he's in 770? No. Is that what it's about? No. It's not what it's about. His job is to make sure the davening is uplifting for some guy who never walked into a Rosh Hashanah service before in his life. No, that's his job. That's who he is. That's what he's doing. Where's God for him? That's where God is for him. That's very, very powerful. And that guy is shlichus. That's what he's. Look what happens. He's famous mimer because of what happens in the next 5 lines. From this it's understood all the more so. Now the Rebbe gets really heavy. Obviously he has no satisfaction. He has no regesh satisfaction. Why? Because he's not thinking about himself anyway. In his knowledge, every moment, has to fulfill his shlichus. Vim over reg, now the Rebbe says something, it's just so heavy that it's, and a person has to take this the right way, because this can drive a person meshuggah if they take it the wrong way. Because if they take it mitzad themselves, and their aveda, and I'm no good if I don't do this, so then they're missing the message completely, right? Because the message is all about to get out of myself and do what the Eibishter wants, right? But if I turn this into my own cheshbon, and I'm not doing this, so I'm no good, ooh, I just did exactly what the Rebbe told me not to do. Right? So, but what does the Rebbe say? The Rebbe says something unbelievably heavy here. And if a moment passes, but he's not doing his aveda. Not only was he able to elevate himself, to be very powerfully involved in his aveda. He could steigen, he could go, he could work. He didn't do that. Furthermore, this moment when he isn't Avid, doesn't do his Aveda, Mered hu, we'll see what these dots are in a second. Mered hu b'melech malchei amlochim, he's rebelling against the King of Kings, the Kadosh Baruch Hu, she'einu mamalei shlichus, he's not fulfilling his shlichus. Now, what are the dots? Look in footnote 75. B'chelik zeh the hamaimer paretz kfeit gedushas admor shlita bebechi rav. The Rebbe burst out crying. V'niach reishia kadosh al shulchan, and he put his head on the table. He was crying so much. V'rak lachrei meshach zman, and only after a certain amount of time, himshich b'amiras hamayim. The Rebbe started to cry, put his head on the table, picked his head up, said, "B'melech malchei amlochim," started crying again, put his head on the table. Then picked his head up again and finished the mimer. He means it. Right? He's not kidding. Right? It's just unbelievable. How in the world? See, as soon as I ask the question, how in the world can I live up to that? So then I'm turning it into me again. Now I understand the question. Obviously, that's a reasonable question. Anybody reading this would ask that question. But when we ask that question, so on a certain level, we're missing the boat, right? Because what am I doing? I stopped learning the mimer, and I'm starting to think about me, right? Just keep learning the mimer. Right now, what am I doing? I'm doing something good, so keep doing it. I just keep learning the mimer. I obviously have to figure out how to incorporate this in my life, for sure. So that's if we bring about it. And when you're learning the mimer, you can look at your chavrus and think about it, or you can think about it yourself, 100%. But it all has to be within the context of learning the mimer, as opposed to within the context of all of a sudden closing my eyes and getting completely involved in my own aveda, in my own darkness, and where I'm holding. Start saying lashon hara about myself, and I'm no good. So who wins? So that's all the Nefesh B'Haim is. Nefesh B'Haim is just one big time. Right? And the Rebbe just wants us so involved in serving the Eibishter, so busy doing what has to be done, and there's so many things that could be done and must be done, that we mamish don't have time to think about, where we're holding and what we're doing. Just geh weiter, no? Learn another sicha, go on mitzvayim, finish your Rambam. You see someone who doesn't look like the happiest person, walk over and say hello, how you doing? Just do what seems to be the thing to do at that particular moment. Are there going to be times where you just sort of sit down and go, okay, yeah, there'll be times, okay, so take a little time, take a breather, and then go back to it, right?
Is that really what he's talking about? Like avoiding self-deprecation?
For sure, that also. But even, the Rebbe's talking about Svias Ratzon, which is really the opposite, right? That I've done enough. Right. But certainly the opposite is even worse. I'm not doing anything. So that's the greatest ammunition in the arsenal of the Nefesh B'Haim, to get us to have a negative self-image and beat ourselves up. Right? You would never walk up to another person and tell them, you're really a lowlife, you're an idiot, you waste your whole day, you're such a fool, you're such a jerk. Why are you like this? You would never say that to another person. Why? Because it wouldn't work. Right? How would the person react if you said that? Obviously, it's going to help the person, right? That's not going to help them. That's just going to make them feel worse if they take you seriously, or they're just going to bop you in the nose if they're normal. Right? Who are you, B'chlal? Right? Go away. Right? Okay. So why do we think saying it to ourselves is of any use? If I say that to myself, I'm going to help myself. Why? I understand. It's not going to help anybody else. So it certainly isn't going to help me.
Sounds like my seventh grade teacher.
Who?
What?
What? Telling you you're a lowlife and a jerk? Okay, but say that. That's why there's certain aspects of education that have changed to the better. Right? Some are much worse, right? But certain things, and so from education, the Rebbe talks, so interesting, the Rebbe talks about it all the time. The Rebbe mentions the fact that, it used to be, when talking about Yira, and Yira Sa'inish, the Rebbe brings a mashal, and the mashal is the Malamed. The Malamed, who used to have a stick that he'd hit the kids with, he'd have it hanging on the wall. The Rebbe brings the mashal, he'd have it hanging on the wall. So the kids always saw it. So he didn't have to use it. They just knew it was there. Right? They knew it was there. And then the Rebbe would always say, behind now, today, that's not the derech in educator. The Rebbe would always then say that's not how it works. But in the old days, rap on the knuckles, right? Now, how messed up were those people? I don't know. I'm not sure, right? The people who think they're more enlightened than anybody who's ever existed will all say that they were all, every generation that ever existed except them were, hung up people with emotional issues that they never dealt with, and they just hid from them and blah, 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 blah. Right. But meanwhile, those people managed to figure out how, for better, in much more difficult circumstances, for better, for worse, eke out some sort of living. Right? They had marriages that lasted. They brought up generations of God-fearing children. How bad were they? Were they realized human beings? No, they weren't vegans. None of them were vegan. Okay. But, they were relatively healthy people. Are there certain things, were they self-realized? Well, they were probably closer to what the Rebbe is talking about as opposed to self-realized, because they didn't spend their whole day thinking about themselves and where they're holding, and they were too busy doing real things in life to worry about that. They didn't have all the free time that everybody has. Right? They're busy. What are they busy doing? Good things. Necessary things. Things that we're very happy we don't have to do as much as they. In order to make a living, they probably had to work more hours than we have to work, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, it wasn't an easy life, but they managed. They kept things going, kept Jewish people alive, kept their families alive. Right? Did they get a rap on the knuckles when they were 8 in Cheder? Yeah, they probably got a rap on the knuckles. Did it mess them up? No. Do we do it today? No. Is that better? Yeah, the Rebbe seems to say that that's better. Right? That today it's all about simcha. Okay. But were they all messed up? I don't know. I'd certainly say the non-Jewish methods of education now have been shown to be completely and totally failures. Right? The Western world's notion of education, because they're turning out people who don't do as well on the tests that they give them relative to the information that they think they should know. So, they're, right? America's, near the bottom of educational success relative to other countries. So, it doesn't mean we should hit people over the knuckles. The Rebbe says it explicitly, says it in Margaret Fuma the Rava, that now Mariris doesn't work, bitterness doesn't work, the sort of musari kind of approaches don't work, and what works now is simcha, right? He's eididus, he's askus, he said is the language of the Rebbe, encouragement and strengthening people, giving them encouragement as opposed to beating them down. Also relative to ourselves. Right? So a person who's so busy doing his avodah, Loizu bilvad, after the Rebbe cried, Loizu bilvad shaloi shayach etzla regesh shel svias ratzon. Not only it's not relevant to this person any notion of satisfaction, bartzecho, ela adorav, the opposite is true. O kontorer. When you ask him, was is by dear, what's with you, mitten bartzecho, with your artzecho, meaning where are you holding? You ask him, where are you holding? Zeyaku, shreit erois, he cries out, b'mar nafshe, mali rotzen, mali tainug, mali ava, mali yira. What's rotzen, what's tainug, what's ava, what's yira? Vos me rotzen, vos me tainug, vos me ava, vos me yira. Ketzid yochel lachshev al inyanim shel madregers. How can I think about levels of, about inyanim regarding the levels I've reached in ava and yira v'chulei? Ba b'shah, at that moment, shetzarich lamed el mishmar. They have to stand on guard, shelo yaver afil a rege echad, that they can't pass even one moment b'matzav shel merida b'malchus chas v'sham, of rebellion against the king, mitzarech yisarim b'milu shlichus b'rege zeh, in terms of the lack of my fulfillment of my shlichus in this moment. Right? Who are we? We're the soldier standing on guard in front of the king's palace. What's he not allowed to do? Anything that isn't involved in guarding the king's palace. He's not allowed to laugh. He's not. That doesn't mean we don't laugh, right? But that soldier there, he's not allowed to laugh. He's not allowed to tell a joke. He's not allowed, right? Why? Because he's standing. Now that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do that in everyday life, right? I'm saying that's okay. That can also be part of our shlichus, right? Rabbah used to start every shir with a joke, right? Badchi rabbanan. The rabbanan would be besimcha and they'd learn Torah better, right? Okay, so that I'm just bringing that as an example. What does that soldier do? One thing and one thing only: stands there, stands on guard, right? Until when? Until his shift is over. When his shift is over, he goes and does whatever he does next, right? But I'm sure he still relates to himself as someone who's a guard in the king's palace, even when he's not actually guarding the king's palace. When he's standing there in his funny hat. Okay. Soldiers, right? The Rebbe started an army. The Rebbe has an army. One of the things that I saw at this trip that I don't recall ever being there. Maybe I was years and years and years ago, but I really don't recall it. I've been, Baruch Hashem, I've been in Crown Heights many times for Kinas HaShluchim. I don't ever recall being there for Kinas HaShluchos. Just happened to be that I was in Crown Heights for Kinas HaShluchos. Kinas HaShluchos is Shabbos around Chaf Pei Shvat. And so I got to Crown Heights Mitzi Shabbos, and that Sunday I was in Crown Heights, the Sunday of the Kinas, the Sunday of the banquet, the women's banquet. So, 4 p.m, the buses were all lined up taking the women to the banquet. But just walking around Crown Heights Sunday morning, you just saw the Rebbe's army on every corner. It was unbelievable. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women who were in the Rebbe's army front lines. Right? Just every street corner, there were 8 or 10 shluchos, all 4 corners that you're waiting to cross. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Right? And it was even, personally, it was more striking than Kinas HaShluchim, because Kinas HaShluchim, so I'm walking around, I'm bumping into people I know, and it's a whole, it's like, I'm not a spectator watching. I'm okay, part of the whole thing. This, I wasn't saying hello to any of the ladies, right? And so it was just watching this army of women that the Rebbe has created who are just out there, on the front lines in communities, big communities, small communities, no communities, who knows what they've done, right? And they're out there doing unbelievable things. It's absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. Right? Okay, let's just read the next 4 lines. And tomorrow, I promised you, I will fulfill my promise, because the Rebbe says it. The Rebbe is going to take the same 4 words as Mispa Yemecha Mole. He's going to explain them slightly differently, and your kishkas will be feeling a little better when the Rebbe says what he says. Okay? It's a little less heavy. This is as heavy as it gets. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Like the Rebbe is right? Rabbi Groner in Australia was once asked by a college student. No, it was a Yeshiva guy, Taka, from Mir. He was for bringing in the Balatanya Shul in Meir Sharim, which used to be downtown Lubavitch in Yerushalayim. It's not anymore, but in those days that's where everything Lubavitch happened. And it's 2 blocks from Mir Yeshiva. So people used to come from Mir Yeshiva to see what the Lubavitchers are up to, where everybody's favorite spectator sport. So and they would sit in the Ferengans and listen. So some Bacher asked the Rabbi Groner from Australia, what's your Rebbe like, or who's your Rebbe? Something along those lines. And he said in that Rabbi Groner was an enormous man in Gashmius and in Ruchnius. He was, over 6 foot tall. He weighed, 300 something pounds. He was an enormous person. He used to buy 2 seats on a plane. Once he went to check in and he had 2 seats, but they were like 3 rows apart. So he said to the person, "I'm big, but I'm not that big. I can't, I don't take up 3 rows." His personality was enormous. It was just so he said to this guy in that accent, he developed over the years a half Australian accent. He said, My Rebbe is a slave driver." The kid. A slave. Now you read this, you go, whoa. You know what he means. My Rebbe is a slave driver. Rabbi Gorner was once asked by the Rebbe to do something, shlichus, and he said, "I don't think I can do that. I just don't think I can pull it off." The Rebbe said to him, "You're my shliach. That means I'm with you, and I can.
Wow.
And I can do it. And if you're my shliach, you can too, because I'm with you and I'm doing it. Just go do it." I don't know what happened after that. I don't know. That's the part of the story that's important to hear, obviously, because that's the part of the story we know. What happened next? Let's just read the next 5 lines to lighten the load a little before we. And when a person fulfills the command of which we just learned about, how to do that, that he does everything in his abilities, has everything in his abilities that his Aveda should be with true love and awe, that last, meaning he's not an akar, he's not a mishakela, with a lack of satisfaction canal, azai, then Moisifin, it adds the pasuk, because we asked, is this pasuk a command or a promise? It's both. As Moisifin umaftichin lemilamayla, and it adds and promises him from above, sihiye, that you will not be b'lashon avtacha, with a promise, mishakela v'kara b'artzecha. That not if you do all the Aveda, if you follow the, so to speak, the command, don't be this, so then you'll also be zeicher to the promise that you will not be this. Chaser k'tzas, and evidently part of this is missing. Exactly what the Rebbe said next. This was said on Shabbos. Okay, just a page and a half left to go in the Mimer. Very famous Mimer.
That's a nice recovery. That's a nice recovery here at the end. That paragraph.
Wait until the next one. The next one also. These words, they take on a whole new meaning. You walk away from this just like, the next line the Rebbe says is, if you do your best, so the Eibishter fills up the empty space.